The final interview with Ted Bundy, who was executed this morning in Florida. As you heard Ted Bundy say in that interview, his sexual violence, he claims, was sparked by an obsession with violent pornography.
Joining us right now is a psychologist who has studied Ted Bundy, John Berberich. Dr. Berberich, you have just seen this interview. Is there any evidence that pornography was somehow responsible for Bundy's sickness?
Well, the general research on pornography would lead one to doubt that, except in very special cases, that something like this could come about. Pornography does not cause this kind of behavior. It might be tied in, and it might in some ways teach young people things that they would never have thought about. But there's much more going on with Ted Bundy and others who were involved in serial killing of this type than pornography itself.
Can that be identified with Ted Bundy? What else was going on that made him do this?
Well, he said some of it himself. He said that he had an obsession. And I'd be as curious as anyone might possibly be about just where that obsessiveness came from. Other people look at pornography and don't get so involved, and you have to then note that Ted is different in that respect. He also used alcohol to free himself, to allow himself to behave in the way he did. We know about the effects of alcohol, and of course not everybody who uses alcohol behaves as did Ted Bundy. But most importantly, Ted Bundy is different in a lot of ways, and I want to point out that his very convincing argument in that attempt to be convincing, he used exactly the same tools, the manipulative tools, his intellect, his charm, his self-effacing qualities that he used, I'm sure, to lure young women to him and to then brutalize them and kill them. So you're looking at a person who has done essentially what he has always done, I think, in a manipulative way, interacted here.
So knowing what you know about Ted Bundy and having developed a profile on him, are you saying then that he was using those same qualities as a con man? Was he conning us today?
Well, I can't say that exactly, but I certainly can say that his intellect has not changed, and that the charm and the skills that he showed here tonight are those same things that he showed before. I don't think anybody who has viewed this would say, well, we now have a man who is contrite and we can free him at this particular point and let him go out, because we now can be sure he lied to people all his life. He was a living lie, and he killed people based on those lies. Being a friendly man who at Lake Sammamish wanted to have his boat moved and then killed with that particular message in mind. There were aspects of sincerity in what he did. He did say that he took the responsibility and admitted that it was not all pornography or all alcohol that caused this. And
Doctor, that brings me back to another thought. I know you're not quite finished with that thought there, but something other than the pornography. I think so many parents here are probably worrying if they have a Playboy or a penthouse in their house. I don't want to make this sound like it's stretching it too far, but could that be the trigger that would create another Ted Bundy?
Well, it can play into it. I guess what we have to deal with is that some people who see pornography and start on a chain with softcore pornography and move their way up, who tend to be obsessive and compulsively behaviorally oriented, may tend that way. But I think we have clues well before they get into a Ted Bundy stage of what might be going on. And I think that what I would point to is that it's very necessary for a family to note what their children look like, how they act when they have these kinds of materials. Are they willing to talk about their feelings? Are they hidden, defensive, isolated? Well, usually that's how it starts, because most kids are uncomfortable. They know that this is not quite smiled upon in the house. But children need to be encouraged to talk about what they think about. Sex needs to be openly discussed at home in age-appropriate ways, and to see how they're thinking, and so that the parents can react.
That's good advice.
You bet.
Dr. Berberich, we want to thank you for sharing your observations with us today. Thanks for coming in.
Oh, it's my pleasure being here. Thank you.
Well, just in case you missed any portion of the interview we just aired, about 25 minutes of the final interview with Ted Bundy, we will be airing portions of that again before 6 o'clock, and then at 6:30, the entire interview with Ted Bundy will run again here on Como News 4.
There is, of course, a lot more to learn about Ted Bundy, and we'll begin in just a moment.
We'll start with a live update from the Florida State Prison at Stark.
I'm Tim Hillard. We'll bring you the various reactions to Bundy's execution earlier today here in Florida.
If you want to take the team to the game,
or the family on a vacation,
our Plymouth Voyager is the perfect solution.
The Largents love their Voyager, and you'll love one too. It's #1 in customer satisfaction of any American minivan and Motor Trend's top minivan again. And prices start at just $11,812.
it's the game and the guys, or the vacation and me.
Game? What game?
Smart choice.
See your local Northwest Chrysler Plymouth dealer now.
Sizzler steak and giant fried shrimp. Very hard to keep to yourself.
Do you want that shrimp?
Do you want that ham?
Yes.
Patrick, look at her. Don't even think about it. Thank you.
Welcome. If you really love me, you'd give me that shrimp.
I love you.
Sizzler steak and giant fried shrimp. Very large, very crisp, and very reasonable.
This is a test of the Jeopardy broadcast system. This station is conducting a test of your skill at Jeopardy. This is only a test.
The category, food. The largest fruit or vegetable ever grown was one of these. Good luck.
This was only a test, but if you said, "What is a pumpkin?" you're ready for an actual Jeopardy game and are advised to tune to this station.
Test yourself tonight at 7:30 on Channel 4.
Now back to regular programming.
Live from Seattle, you're watching Como News 4.
The execution of Ted Bundy this morning has brought a wide range of emotional responses.
We have seen Ted Bundy's apparent sorrow, but for many people in Florida, this was a very different day. We continue our special team coverage with a live update from the Florida State Prison at Stark, where Bundy's execution took place early this morning. And we begin with Como's Tim Hillard. Tim?
Well, Dan, it is far quieter here tonight than it has been here in several days. It is starkly different from the scene here just some 12 hours ago.
The first sign of the impending execution came before dawn. Smoke billowed from generators used to power the prison's chair. 5:35 a.m.
Bundy was offered a last meal about 40 minutes ago. He was offered steak and eggs, and he refused it. I understand that when he received word of his last appeal being turned down, he was visibly shaken.
Certain of his death since midnight, Bundy had spent his final hours with a Methodist minister, much of that time in prayer. Now, near 6 a.m., witnesses begin assembling.
John Wilson?
It is a short ride to the prison, where Bundy, now shaven and alone, is led into the execution chamber. Now, 7 a.m.
It was carried out quietly. He did not resist. There was no violence.
His last words was just give my love to my family and to my friends.
A crowd waits. Finally, in the distance, a faint wave of the handkerchief. Bundy is dead.
I can tell you that Theodore Bundy was executed at 7:16 this morning in the electric chair at Florida State Prison. He was executed for the murder of 12-year-old Kimberly Leach of Lake City, Florida.
You could see Mr. Bundy grip his fist, and you could see his nerves in his body flexing, kind of a quiver like. It's basically all that I seen.
You knew he was dead when you saw the extremities turning blue and the doctor finally nodding after the check and the reflexes in the eye and listening through a stethoscope to his heart for at least 2 or 3 minutes.
Now, 7:45. Bundy's body is driven away. Those who saw him die have no remorse.
None whatsoever. I felt that although there was death that occurred, that it was an easier death than probably any of his victims had to go through prior to death.
And Ken Robinson should know he found the body of Kimberly Leach some 11 years ago. His opinion is also not an isolated one. My colleague Bob Bronson is here. Bob?
Not isolated at all, Tim. As a matter of fact, as Ted Bundy waited to die, a cow pasture across from the prison became temporary home to hundreds of people from all across Florida. Some were the curious, the angry, and others who felt that 11 years was far too long to wait for justice.
Deborah Knight and Bonnie Goodwin drove 4 hours to be here when Ted Bundy died.
I was in Tallahassee attending Florida State when the Kyle-Maker murders occurred. I was living off campus, one street over from the girl who was attacked on Dunwoody. It could have been me.
It was a bloody January night 11 years ago when Bundy killed 2 sorority girls and bludgeoned 3 other women at Florida State. So Deborah and Bonnie are here on business. Unfinished business from a lifetime ago.
I can't explain it. My husband doesn't understand why I'm here, but he knew I had to come, so I drove 4 hours to get here.
Bye, bye, Ted Bundy, goodbye.
But for others, the execution is a carnival, and Bundy is the sideshow freak.
I guess it's pretty well been said he's somewhat of an animal. He just doesn't seem like he fits in the human race.
This is a Ted drop.
Now we're all ecstatic. Ted Bundy, you're dead.
But as the hours drag toward dawn behind the barbed wire, there are others here who don't want Bundy dead. Opponents of capital punishment hold a lonely vigil, revolted by the signs, the T-shirts, the jokes.
We're killing somebody today, and I can really understand their feelings. But when they get out of the car and talk about, well, we're going to a barbecue, and let's fry this guy, and that's, to me, that's violence, and they're worse off than the guys in the prison.
But no one else here will shed any tears for Bundy.
They're supposed to wave a white handkerchief or something, and all the lights should dim over there like they're dimming. They look like they're about to dim.
The lights do not dim, but at 7:16 a.m., a guard appears waving the white handkerchief. Ted Bundy is dead. The score from that lifetime ago is settled. Bonnie and Deborah's business is finished.
I know there may still be people like Ted Bundy out there, but at least that makes one more off the street permanently.
Deborah Knight's reaction, the bottom line here. It has taken 11 years, but finally tonight, the people of Florida feel they have at last achieved justice in this case. Dan, Kathy?
All right, gentlemen. Bob Thronson, Tim Hillard, thank you for that live update.
There's absolutely no question that a situation like this elicits some very strange emotions, and deep emotions indeed. Well, Ted Bundy is more than just a name to Seattle author Ann Rule, and she joins us right now. She worked alongside him at the Crisis Clinic, and she interviewed him for her best-selling book, The Stranger Beside Me. Here is Ann Rule with us. And in all of your interviews with Ted Bundy, did he ever say, "I did it, I killed all those women"?
No, the closest he ever came was when he was out on bail from Utah. He said, "The things I want to tell you that I can't." When he was captured in Pensacola 2 years later, he called and wanted me to come, and he wanted to tell me they wouldn't let me come. And he wrote me a letter that said, "Ann, I had my freedom. I worked for it for 2.5 years. I lost it through a combination of compulsion and stupidity." And I think compulsion probably is the operative word.
In all the times that you talked to Ted Bundy, did he discuss pornography and the influence on him, and did he somehow blame pornography on what he did?
The most interesting thing to me out of the tape that I've just seen is when I worked with Ted at the Crisis Clinic for a year, and we talked a lot. He never mentioned sex. Now, most women, in talking with a male, he'll manage to bring up the topic. But I can see now, and I've suspected for some time, that was such a dangerous topic that it never was mentioned at all.
Nothing on pornography ever.
Nothing,
so much of what we heard him say today.
Now, I wrote, as you probably know, for 14 years for the Fact Detective magazines. He asked me to bring my detective magazines in, and he said his girlfriend wanted to read some of the stories, and he'd take them home to her. I've long suspected he was reading them, but I thought to find out how police caught criminals.
The investigator from Washington State who went to talk to Bundy said that Ted Bundy was, he was born to commit murder, that he was consumed with murder. How do you react to that statement?
I heard Bob Keppel say that. I think consumed is correct. Born to commit murder. I've always rejected the bad seed theory. Something happened, as Dr. Berberich suggested, I think under the age of 5, something we do not know about, that made Ted prime. Sure, the pornography probably came in, but I think it was the catalyst and not the cause.
All right, Ann Rule, thanks for coming in and sharing your insights.
Well, there is much more involving the Ted Bundy execution still ahead. His mother has broken a long silence to talk, and you'll hear her story.
And while Ted Bundy did confess to many other killings, he left many unsolved murders behind. We'll look into those as well coming up.
Carol Windsor before Nutrisystem, Carol Windsor after Nutrisystem.
I lost 150 pounds in 15 months, and I feel wonderful. When I was overweight, I had very little self-confidence, and I wanted to stay home all the time. Now I can't wait to get out and go and do things with my family. My husband's always telling me how proud he is of me, and I like hearing that. My 6-year-old said, "Mommy, you look pretty now."
Don't wait. Call now. Nutrisystem. We succeed where diets fail you.
Northwest Truck Accessories can turn your truck into the ultimate truck. Start with Line-A-Bed, the original custom-fit bed liner. Step up to Laverne stainless steel running boards. Protect it with a stainless steel grill guard and cab guard. And top it off with a canopy, custom fit for your truck. Northwest Truck Accessories, the ultimate truck stop. For your nearest dealer, call Northwest Truck toll-free at 1-800-527-3320.
An old friend's handshake, a good belly laugh, a mother's hug, a minute on Santa's lap. What you can touch, what you can feel, these are the things that are real.
There's a reason the friend of the family offers all those bank investments, stocks, bonds, annuities, and mutual funds. Money isn't everything, but it lets you spend more time with the things that are.
The things that are real.
Beautiful carpeting, beautiful upholstery. Now it's easy to keep them clean with a Power Steamer by Bissell. The Power Steamer is a professional-style cleaning machine. Deep clean carpeting, spots and spills, and whole rooms. Clean upholstery, sofas, chairs, and in your car. The Power Steamer shoots a warm cleaning formula while strong suction pulls out liquid and dirt. It's Bissell's best, with many special features. Don't rent. Own your own Bissell Power Steamer and deep clean anytime you like.
Now, $179.99 at the Bon Marché.
You're watching Como News 4.
Thank God it's finally over. Those are Vivian Rancourt's words, a mother who has been waiting almost 15 years to see justice come to her daughter's killer. In an emotional exchange today, Rancourt talked for the first time with Louise Bundy, another mother who has suffered terribly in the wake of all the murders, knowing her son brought so much grief to so many people. Como's Carrie Brock reports.
On Como TV's Northwest Afternoon today, Ted's mother, Louise Bundy, joined the program live on the telephone and described her family gathering in Tacoma this morning.
We had upwards of 40 people there, including our family, daughters and grandchildren. And I never got so many hugs in my life. And there were prayers, there were tears, many, many tears. Along about 4 o'clock, or the time that we figured was the time for the execution, we all bowed in silence and had silent prayer for quite a while.
Then Vivian Rancourt joined the program. Her daughter Susan was killed by Bundy back in 1974, and Mrs. Rancourt was asked if she had any words for Mrs. Bundy.
First of all, we send hugs to her, too. It has to be terrible for her. Our suffering is over. Our answers are all there, and I think hers are probably just beginning.
Louise, any words you would like to say to Vivian? Any thoughts you would like to share with her?
Well, I've said it before, and I'm glad to be able to say it directly to one of the moms. We don't know why this happened, and we feel so desperately sorry for you. We didn't want our son to do these things. We have 2 beautiful daughters of our own, and we know how we would feel. I am sorry.
I know you are. And we don't hold any resentment or hatred towards you or your family.
An extended hand, the light of forgiveness, to close such a dark chapter in both of their lives. Carrie Brock, Como News 4.
Mrs. Bundy said today she chose not to attend her son's execution because of what she considers the lust for blood that people were apparently feeling in Florida.
The families of 24 of Bundy's victims know the truth today, but for others, the anguish and the uncertainty remain. Como's Brian Johnson says investigators now believe Ted Bundy told them little more than they already knew.
The bodies of 4 of Ted Bundy's victims were found here on Taylor Mountain in 1975. The underbrush is dense, the terrain all but impassable. Still unknown is how many other bodies may have been placed here, how many more times Ted Bundy killed.
We're receiving phone calls already from people as far away as Anchorage, Alaska, wondering if possibly Ted would have confessed to the death of their loved one, their child.
Investigators believe Bundy's killing may have started long before 1974. Many suspect Ted's first victim was 8-year-old Anne Marie Burr of Tacoma. Her body was never found. For Beverly and Donald Burr, it just means the uncertainty continues.
Then we'll just have to carry on with what we always have, not knowing whether she's alive or not.
Lonnie Trumbull may also have been a Ted victim. She was killed in her Queen Anne apartment in 1966. Her roommate, Lisa Wick, was severely beaten and left for dead. Wick believes the attacker was Ted Bundy. Lieutenant Nolan says Bundy denies any involvement.
He didn't give them anything new. He just confirmed what they already knew. And then he teased them with other information. And I think that was certainly his ploy. And I don't think he would have ever, in a million years, given up anything more than he gave up.
Investigators say the tragedy of Bundy's confession is that he raised hopes of countless families, and their hopes died with Bundy in the electric chair. Brian Johnson, Como News 4.
Police say it will be almost impossible to follow up on the few leads Bundy did give them. They say too much time has passed and the grave sites would have been destroyed. There's a lot more coming up on this special edition of Como News 4. As we mentioned, in case you missed it, we will replay for you excerpts of the Ted Bundy television interview a little later in this newscast. And then at 6:30 tonight, an expanded, in-depth report on that final interview done just hours before Bundy's execution. That's on Como News 4 tonight at 6:30.
We're going to break away from the Bundy story for just a couple of minutes here. There is other news today, and Steve Poole is going to join us to check the weather. We'll be right back.
Right now, get super values on 89 Dodge cars and trucks at your Puget Sound Dodge dealers. Come in and see our great selections of quality pickups just delivered, and many with huge factory cashback benefits. See the midsize Dakota pickup with more interior room than regular cab compacts and an optional 8-foot cargo bed. And now you can get up to $1,000 cash back on Dakotas in stock for a limited time. Plus, Dakota comes with our 770 protection plan. See your Puget Sound Dodge dealers now, where the 89 Dakotas are available at super values.
Why is the competition afraid of our simulcolor copier? Because when you punch it, it gets you black and blue.
So, how do we get back in?
Hey.
Okay, come on, let's go. You got the keys? This is not a problem.
You know that Roto-Rooter is the one name to remember when you have a clogged sewer, sink, or drain.
And you know you can count on us for fast service. On most calls, we get to your home in 1 hour. That's right, 1 hour service from Roto-Rooter. Expert sewer and drain cleaning, and 1 hour service from me, your Roto-Rooter man. See? Right on time.
And away goes